Hmm.
And once we've sort of sampled at super high rate the underlying electrical field nearby these cells, we can process that signal into just where do we detect a spike or where do we not? Sort of a binary signal, 1 or 0. Do we detect a spike in this 1 millisecond or not? And we do that because the actual information carrying sort of subspace of neural activity is just when are spikes occurring.
Hmm.
Essentially, everything that we care about for decoding can be captured or represented in the frequency characteristics of spike trains, meaning how often are spikes firing in any given window of time. And so that allows us to do sort of a crazy amount of compression from this very rich, high density, signal to something that's much, much more sparse and compressible that can be sent out over a wireless radio, like a Bluetooth communication, for example.
Quick tangents here. You mentioned electrode neuron. There's a local neighborhood of neurons nearby. How difficult is it to like isolate from where the spike came from?
Yeah, so there's a whole field of sort of academic neuroscience work on exactly this problem of basically given a single electrode or given a set of electrodes measuring a set of neurons, how can you sort of spike sort
Hmm.
which spikes are coming from what neuron? And this is a problem that's pursued in academic work because you care about it for understanding what's going on in the underlying sort of neuroscience of the brain. If you care about understanding how the brain's representing information, how that's evolving through time, then that's a very, very important question to understand. For sort of the engineering side of things, at least at the current scale, if the number of neurons per electrode is relatively small, you can get away with basically ignoring that problem completely. You can think of it like sort of a random projection of neurons to electrodes. And there may be, in some cases, more than one neuron per electrode. But if that number is small enough, those signals can be thought of as sort of a union of the two.
Hmm.
And for many applications, that's a totally reasonable trade-off to make and can simplify the problem a lot. And as you sort of scale out channel count, the relevance of distinguishing individual neurons becomes less important because you have more overall signal and you can start to rely on sort of correlations or covariance structure in the data to help understand when that channel is firing, what does that actually represent? Because you know that when that channel is firing in concert with these other 50 channels, that means move left. But when that same channel is firing with concert with these other 10 channels, that means move right.
Okay, so you have to do this kind of spike detection on board, and you have to do that super efficiently, so fast and not use too much power because you don't want to be generating too much heat. So it have to be a super simple signal processing step.
Yeah.
Um, is there some wisdom you can share about what it takes to overcome that challenge?
Yeah. So we've tried many different versions of basically turning this raw signal into sort of a feature that you might want to send off the device. And I'll say that I don't think we're at the final step of this process. This is a long journey. We have something that works clearly today, but there can be many approaches that we find in the future that are much better than what we do right now. So some versions of what we do right now, and there's a lot of academic heritage to these ideas. So I don't want to claim that these are original Neuralink ideas or anything like that. But one of these ideas is basically to build a sort of like a convolutional filter almost, if you will, that slides across the signal and looks for a certain template to be matched.